You can start that if you want. You get 6 o'clock. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. We pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We can approve these May 30th minutes.
Okay.
Can we?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Yep.
We have a motion to
Move to approve.
Yes, I read them. I second.
all in favor?
Oh, I just,
Oh,
right here, I think. Just need to, on section, the minutes approval, it says Wells, Collins, Wells. I think the second Wells just needs to go.
so
Good catch, see.
Got that. You good?
Yeah, it's usually something we do.
all in
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Motion to approve.
That's all right. That's all right. Happy to do it.
We just signed them.
That's why you want to assist.
Yeah.
I have two copies here. I want to set with this other one.
Me too.
Okay. Start going on.
So we're gonna talk about review and discuss revising transfer station fees or potentially putting that before a public meeting.
Yeah. So you have the slate, the schedule of fees before you want to hand out exhibit
Fee.
B. Which I don't have. Seem to have.
Jack, I got an extra one. Maybe not.
So what I would suggest is you have your discussion and what you'd like to do with the fees. And then I'll change the appendix to reflect the new ones, and then we'll schedule a public hearing
Yeah.
at one of the agendas at the select board meeting. We'll get it out ahead of time and post the proposed changes on the website and get it out on the flash newsletter and so forth. And then in a few weeks after those changes have been marinating out in the community, you can hold a public hearing and get some input on your suggested changes. And then if that works well, you can approve it at that meeting or the subsequent meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Freeze, weren't tires $5 piece?
No, well, no, we had made the change, but we didn't go through a public hearing and go through all the proper steps, so. This is what's currently on the books correctly, so. So my recommendation is 15 for appliances that need to be drained to Freon. Go up from 10. No change on the fluorescent light bulbs. 15 on television, TVs and computer monitors. Actually, no change on those. Go up $1 on propane tanks to $2 and $12 on the larger ones.
Hang on a second now.
$2.
So there's, for the 20-pound tank size, it's $1, and then for anything above that, it's $10. So go from $1 to $2 and go up to $12 on the large ones.
So what about microwaves?
So
Yeah,
they can keep it at 5,
Okay.
and then go to $5 on tires. And $10 for truck tires. I know we talked about a sticker, charge for a sticker. At this time, I want to hang off. I want to, Jack, as I talked to Jack this morning, is actually going to do some research on that and the cost of it, but then also maybe do a bag price, do a chart by bag or, special bag and just see what the two options are. Whether we decide to go either way, but I just want to explore both options before we. It's
Yeah.
sort of separate from this anyways, but,
I guess
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily opposed to exploring both options, but we looked into the bags a bit already. Yeah, all right, I'm with you.
If we decide to institute a fee, that means that we have to go through this process again, right? We have to post it, make it public and have a public hearing again.
Well, the ordinance already includes a provision that the select board gets to annually adjust the sticker fee, the
Okay.
dump sticker fee. At the moment, you don't have a fee. So I guess you'd have to decide whether you want to initiate one and then we'll have a discussion about. Right now, you give out a sticker. If you have it, you could use it forever. You'll have to go through a notification process and a little get acquainted with the citizens as they show up. To give them a notice that says going forward, you have to get a sticker. The sticker is going to look different. We'll have to order different stickers. And then we'll talk about annually, if those stickers need to be renewed, what that process is going to be when you come to town office, when you buy your dog tickets or register your cars or what time of year. So we just need to walk through that process. Because if you're going to give out a couple thousand stickers and you're going to do it every year, we just need to understand administratively how we're going to accommodate that.
Okay.
And then you'll have to decide the kind of the learning curve for folks to get used to it.
And I have another question. Before we decide that this is the fee that we want to charge. Have we looked at what our cost is?
that was my suggestion. On that.
Yeah, I mean, is this covering our cost to dispose of these things at this time? You know, so.
But that I can't answer.
Right.
I don't know the extent to which the budget or the revenue from anything else you do. I can't tell you off the top of my head
Right.
how much it subsidizes the operation of the transfer station. I don't think it covers the entire cost, but I think this goes from nothing to something to help that. I mean, waste disposal is certainly getting incredibly more expensive and more complex as landfills fill up and states struggle for who's allowed in and who's not.
Mark, you had a question?
Yeah, who's gonna enforce the sticker policy? I see people coming from out of town all the time into our transfer station. And dumping off, no stickers. I mean, I have a sticker and. But it's just,
Yeah, some of it is,
Some other towns going in, and then my other thing with that is. When you up the cost of getting rid of the debris. Are you gonna be talking to the police to see, because I know when fees go up. And I know they have to, but people start dumping on the side of the road.
yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think people are gonna dump on the side of the road one way or the other.
Guess they leave it in the road now.
Right.
Well, that's true, block the road completely, so.
Yeah.
I don't know what the best answer is, Mark, to be honest with you, but we've got to cover our costs and,
Right.
we're trying to do it to people who are actually disposing of it, not just across the board and some of the specialty stuff.
Yeah.
As far as your comment about enforcing it, it really is the dump personnel's, responsibility to enforce it. And I've stopped JR a couple times when asking about out-of-state plates, and he's like, well, he knows people well enough because he's there every day, every time the dump is open. And he's explained the 2 times I've asked him about it, he's had a legitimate explanation of why they're driving an out-of-state car. So they're a citizen and their car broke down, their son, I mean, it's been a couple good, and right off the cuff, he knows the people, so,
I see people from different towns.
yeah.
I know they live.
Yeah, so honestly, Mark, that's one of the reasons that we even started this transfer station sticker discussion. Because the 3 of us spoke with JR at length, and went over goods, bads, uglies, concerns, all of that about the transfer station. And that's one of the things that the 4 of us, JR as well, kind of identified. So we need to figure out how we really narrow that down. But that is something that's on our radar, and I think that's part of the reason why we're just gonna be a little bit patient with it and take the time to make the steps right, so we can try to get all these ducks in a row on our end and the people at the transfer station that are to monitor it. So
I mean, I've had the same dump sticker for probably 4 years, so, I mean, there's nothing stopping me from moving to Enfield and still using that dump sticker, so.
Right,
At one point, they changed color every year and then unfortunately that stopped, so.
You know, what's the responsibility, I mean, what's the financial responsibility of us? We're taking in orange garbage,
So they pay us,
is it worth?
yeah, they pay I don't know what the write-off at the top of my head is, Mark, but yeah. So it's probably worth reviewing, but I don't know the last time we checked on how much they pay and
Right.
or when it went up, so.
Yes.
So,
So we receive trash.
so
From
Orange,
Orange.
so Orange uses they use our emergency services and they also use, in which they pay us for, and they also pay for our transfer station and they pay us for.
Yeah.
So,
and we just received payment from them not too long ago, so
Okay.
it should be, I would guess, fairly easy.
Let me look into it.
Yeah, fairly easy to track down.
We can at least look at what the arrangement is and when the last time the fee was changed and what it is.
Sure, when the contract.
Just so I can understand.
Could be
Yeah.
15 years ago, you
Right.
know?
Understood.
Uh,
So I'm in agreement on the fees that you're.
yeah, so, and some of the point on the fees, Mark, also just, I mean, we're not doubling the fees in any, except for the propane tanks, which is going from $1 to $2. So we are trying to keep cognizant of what you brought up, so.
I just didn't know if you guys could keep track with the police department and how much is getting dumped out on the roads.
No, I mean, obviously we heard about the event last week, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, and the road crew picks it up too. I mean, they're picking up stuff when they're out and about, so they see it, so. Okay. Anything else on that?
Nope.
Okay. Dale?
Yeah. The refrigerators and Freon, they've been taking them over there and JR has somebody come in and
Yep,
drains them. Is that still gonna be?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, cause
Yeah.
a town resident ain't gonna have no way of.
No,
Open that stuff.
we take care of it. Yeah, no, that's,
Yeah.
there's the only requirement when they bring them in is the doors are supposed to be off of
Yeah.
them. So, yeah. Good. That's it for agenda items, I believe.
Yeah,
For
I-
other business,
Yeah, I laid when I was going through my emails, one of the things you have to do is to appoint a floodplain administrator. Your prior town administrator was the floodplain administrator, and now John Hennessy has been doing it.
okay,
He's fine continuing to act as the floodplain administrator, but you should just make that
Make it
official
official.
appointment. So if you'd like to
Right.
nominate
Like this is-
John Hennessy as the floodplain administrator, that would be good.
Okay, I don't have a problem with that, and seems to go hand in hand with being zoning inspector, so. We have a motion to approve John as the floodplain,
I'll make the motion.
Yeah, that was saying.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'm not surprised.
In that same email, there was something about the fees as well. We don't have fees for that, or application fees, but we currently,
It's silent on floodplain permit fees and John Hennessy has recommended the floodplain permit fee be set by the select board at $25.
is that something, again, we need a public hearing for, or?
I would say so. I have to do a little research. I'm just not familiar with that specific permit fee, so I think we'll probably roll it into
Yep, okay,
and just make sure we get some daylight on it, and then you can make a decision.
okay. Thank you.
Last week or the week before, time before, we talked about paving. I'd like to get a decision on the paving.
So I gave you where the money would come from for.
Right.
Turnpike Road this morning.
Right.
Once we verify that is 95% legit. I would say we move forward on it and have a vote.
Right.
And vote on it.
So I
I'd
did-
do it sooner than later.
I did meet with Bob Cushman this afternoon and
He's still got some work to do on Turnpike before we can actually pay.
yeah,
I'd
but
like to get into the schedule, so we're not doing it in November.
right, but R&D is kind of pressing for a decision so that we can get into the queue, get on the calendar, get on the
Yeah.
schedule.
They're looking for us to make a decision. When I spoke with the guy when we were out looking at the roads, he said the decision yesterday would have been best.
Yeah. I mean,
And
tell
then
them
it
we're,
does say 30 days on.
I
here.
believe we have enough to do with the Turnpike, and that should be what's on the docket for this year.
Right.
So,
So you've got 90,000 encumbered in 2022,
Yeah.
134,981 carryover of a prior block grant, I
Yeah.
suppose. And then you'll have presumably 160,000 with your blocks grant in September.
Yeah.
That would equal 384,981, which is just a short distance from the actual quote
396.
of 397.
Yeah.
So
So where does that other money come from? Where are we gonna get the,
Just from the general fund. So,
so we,
Yeah, we'll just-
we have it in the general
Yeah.
fund and we can pull that out to subsidize that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had a question on that September block grant, so I can be more familiar with the process. Is that something that we have to apply for? Does it automatically come to municipalities? How does this September block grant work? Do you know?
I'm gonna have
What
to
we've been
look at
using?
that history,
Okay,
block grant.
because my understanding is you've always gotten it.
right,
As to the specific process, I'm not familiar with that right now.
okay, right,
So-
yeah, me either, so I understand, right?
Yeah.
That's been secret. So I guess then the question I would have is. If we approve all this, and let's just say that we don't get that block grant. Do we have the money in the general fund to? I mean, I know we don't have a bunch of extra, but is it physically there? So we're not left hanging and we don't leave RD paving hanging. If we don't, for some reason, get that block grant, because I don't base the way I live off money that might be coming in. I base money off what we have.
Mhm.
I would base an approval of it based on the fact that we get this every year, sure. But what if September comes and we don't get it? Where do we go from there?
Good question.
It is a good question. And
We'll find the answer out.
well,
To be determined.
yeah, I guess so. I mean, I have to meet with the new finance manager
Sure.
and
Kinda do some
get a
digging,
sense
right?
where we're at. In
Right.
terms of projections, where we're at in terms of the unassigned fund balance. And
So this could be a tricky one because I will tell you, I'm pretty sure that. They're not kidding when they say it only lasts for 30 days.
no, I
And-
absolutely believe it. We got to be able to give them an answer.
So how do we? How do we commit to it? Not knowing for positive if the block grant's coming in. But we need a couple days to at least try to find out whether we have the money just in case.
Right.
But we're also, it's gotta be pushing the 30-day time frame from when did their estimate come in? I've got it.
May 26th.
May. Yeah, so. We're getting there. All right, we got
yeah.
a couple of weeks, I guess, but
If you're comfortable. You could make it subject to certainty of our ability to cover this debt. And I'll work with your new finance manager and the old finance manager to
sort of,
make sure there's enough money to cover it. Let's pretend the 160 doesn't show up to see if you've got enough in the undesignated fund balance.
Yeah.
Um,
I think
we-
it's only fair to do that.
oh, no, I don't disagree. I don't disagree. I hate to lose our place in line and lose another year on the paving. But on the other hand, if you don't have the money for it, you can't do it. Um,
So something maybe, you're back Thursday,
Maybe that
so
Thursday.
could we say maybe by next Tuesday afternoon? That gives you 2 more days back in the office. And
Sure.
then maybe we can get an idea.
Sure.
Does that make sense to you guys, or what are your thoughts?
I'm gonna try to get that answer by Thursday.
Okay,
I can work on it in between.
does it seem reasonable to you guys,
I
or
am.
am I out on a limb?
No, you're not on a limb.
Alright,
I
Okay,
think we could make the motion right now contingent upon that. So if he
Yes.
discovers, then we're good to go. We can just,
Right.
I'm good with that, yeah. So,
okay,
yeah,
Motion.
then I'll make that motion. That
yeah, I would second, yeah,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, contingent on the funding needs.
Yeah.
okay,
Okay, I
awesome. Thank you.
appreciate that. Thank you. That might save a week, and that week
Yeah.
might make a difference between getting on the calendar and not getting on it.
Absolutely, yeah,
Um,
okay, thank you.
I think one of you asked to have the auditor present for a meeting just to review things generally.
Yeah.
They're happy to do that. He can't do July 5th, which would have been a Wednesday, but he can do July 18th.
Um,
Is that a date that works.
Is that a regular meeting?
It's,
Yeah.
I think so.
It's the third, yeah.
Yeah. that would be our second meeting.
Are you here, back?
Yeah.
All right, let's plan it to be.
Okay.
Hold on. No, you're fine.
Okay.
And Carrie had to be at that meeting as well.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Are you okay if he does it by Zoom? If you're not, he'll drive here. It's about an hour and 20 minutes away.
I'd like to hear.
Okay,
I'd rather have him here.
so say one, so say you all.
What's that?
So say one, so say you all.
I preferred it for him to be here.
Yeah,
That would be
I
my
don't
preference.
disagree.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't disagree.
Yeah.
So we give him a lot of money each year, so.
Sure.
Yep, that's fine.
And put him in the hot seat for a minute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then we talked a little bit about the open positions. I don't know if we did it before we opened, but I'll just repost the highway and the administrative assistant.
Yep.
And
Let's get them listed on
Yep.
the New Hampshire site.
Yeah. I also emailed Mike Duffy at Horizons Engineering to ask him to attend one of these meetings and
Okay.
kind of do a general update on the water projects that.
Yeah, sooner or later, sooner than later, so.
Yep.
Him and John both.
Yep. I will be attending the CIP meeting on Wednesday, the 14th. That
Okay.
would normally be a day that I'm here, but I changed my schedule to be here for that.
Thank you.
I had a long conversation with the town attorney to come up to speed on the issues that he's working on. I understand you've got 3 tax appeals.
Yep.
So we can always talk about those in non-public. There's nothing particularly that there is to discuss. But in general, those are,
The next thing that's, I mean, they're December, I think, is when they come back into.
yeah.
like any kind of court
Yeah.
action.
In general, we talked about the appraiser, the agreed upon assessor that we would use, the appraiser that we'd use to try to navigate the
Okay.
differences of opinion on the property values, and we'll see where that goes. And we spent a certain amount of time talking about the tax deed process, which will kind of be next up. I just I mean, I think it's important to say, while we're going to talk about deeds, or I'm going to suggest you might want to do some of that in non-public.
I agree.
It's important that people pay their taxes, and if they don't pay their taxes as a matter of law, under most circumstances, you're required to take a tax deed. And so there are some instances where, either because of the condition of the land or certain hardships and other conditions derived by statute, you can reject the tax deed. But in general, the law requires you, after the requisite period of time that taxes are owed, to simply take the property and recover the taxes.
Mhm.
And so in many instances, you don't have control over that. You have to just simply follow the law. And that's, of course, is intended to make sure that people pay their property taxes and that there's a statutory remedy if they don't. That said, there are 12 properties on the tax list now that we won't identify in public because, you know, there are a variety of circumstances that present themselves why people can't pay their taxes. And you then get to decide item by item whether you
Right.
want to reject that tax for statutory reasons or simply take the property for back taxes.
Or if it meets a statutory.
Yeah.
Reason.
Right.
Right.
Right. And of course, there's the other likelihood that they've got a few more days to meet the deadline. They have received a notice of impending tax deed sale. They've got 30 days from that notice to make a payment before they simply lose the property for taxes. And just as a point of reference, the only windfall that the town gets, not really a windfall, you get to recover the cost of the tax, the interest penalties, and the cost of collection. So if you take a property for back taxes for 10,000 and you sell it for 100,000, you can only keep the amount of the money that represents
Taxes.
what you're owed, so you can't get a windfall. And then you have to return the rest either to the Superior Court or back to the owner if you can identify them. So it's a cumbersome process, but there are certain statutory requirements for you to do that. So I just say that as a general public
Mhm.
indication of why we're doing this, that the town's not trying to be difficult with people, but there simply is a remedy that's required by law.
Okay, Thank you.
So at the end of whenever you're ready, we can go into non-public and we can go down the list and the circumstances.
Yep.
And then we'll just go from there.
Okay. All right,
Sure, discuss.
hold on.
Is there a provision for payment plans with these folks that were delinquent? Can you get them into a payment plan as long as they pay the next upcoming ones and pay
There-
off the old ones?
There, yes. That's right.
Okay, so you should
Yeah.
just think about that, because.
Yeah.
We've done that in the
Yeah,
past.
some of those, there's a history for some of these with that very same thing, and the difficulty, if I may, is. They got this arrears, you've got the same liability going forward, if you divide it by 12 or 24, you just increase the amount anyway. And so you get into the cycle that they never can catch up.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
so that's the dilemma.
and when I was involved in that, and what we did was they had, the stipulation was they had to pay whatever was current coming up. And you had a payment plan for the arrears.
But that's essentially doubling their annual payment right now, so. yeah.
Well, not really, because if you think about it, their upcoming is their upcoming, whatever that is, their current, say they owe $5,000.
Right.
Okay, and they have a 5,000 coming up. Well, the 5,000 come up, you're gonna have to pay, but the 5,000, you can string that over a certain period, you can make that pay out over a year. If you want, and so they only have to pay 600 plus some interest charges or whatever you wanna work into the deal.
We've floated a few ideas back and forth, so it's definitely something that, ultimately, we'd like to see everybody stay in their home, right? That's our goal.
I understand.
So, right?
I've been in that chair before.
Yeah, yeah. So,
I think it's historically, at least for me personally. I have virtually never seen those meet with success.
Yeah, see, I have, so.
Okay,
thank you.
so that's the rough and tumble that
But
you
it's
don't have.
only based on the person and what they demonstrate is their financial ability to.
And quite frankly, how much their tax bill is. I mean, because, like, one of the things we discussed, and I see your scenario, but if you take that scenario and they've got 5,000 in arrearage and 5,000 they owe this year, and they pay the 5,000 they owe this year, and then you spread that other 5,000 out over 12 months, they're paying 10,000 that year.
Yes, they
So
are.
if they can't pay 5, so it's tough, but that's all of the stuff we've been saying, so I'm with you, Sal.
And I can just
yeah.
say, not to get too far into the weeds here.
Yeah.
Virtually all of these people have arrearages that go back years.
Yeah.
And they're in up to their eyeballs. And that's the dilemma that, we deal with a certain age of the lien, right? But then there's 2 other years that aren't old enough yet, and that they're still behind it.
Yeah.
So it tends to be a downward spiral.
Yeah.
And that's the difficult part.
I understand. I've seen that.
You know
go
that.
too.
You know that. So,
That's one of the
Yeah.
parts of this job that.
So we'll table the rest of this for non-public. You had something?
Yeah, I just had a couple of questions. I was kind of doing a 2-part question on the paving. I'm gonna circle back to that. You're looking just shy at 400,000. Did we look at just one contractor with that? And if we did, can we get that information at least out, just because the way I'm thinking about that is what they're gonna be responsible for doing, what we're gonna be responsible for doing. That road has many different materials in it, in different spots. So I'm looking at the long term of this, so how we're really, it's just R&D looking at this, and that's quite a change, not look at another contractor.
Yeah,
I know we're trying to squeeze it in time, but
Well,
squeeze it in time and looking at something that's gonna last you 20 years and only lasts you 7.
Right. I know,
I don't know the history of how we got the R&D.
We're supposed to have 3 bids, anyone?
I think initially we did. So I don't know.
Usually it's Blacktop, R&D and
Selectmen should be seeing those bids.
So
They would have to.
one of the.
we did see the
Company.
3 bids.
yeah. So when we last year, when we had the 3 bids, there were 3 bids that came in. As I recall, for the $500,000 estimate.
Yeah.
We did not rebid it again for this year, based on the same thing. We just went with the one we decided on last year, so.
Yep.
That's the history there, so.
Right.
6 month makes a huge difference.
I mean,
In
say that again.
6 months can make a huge difference.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference in the cost to you, but it's how they do it. That doesn't change much. What costs is the commodity of the pavement, so.
Well, you've also got a road that went through a woodland that gets paid on it, so.
But
Right.
they all knew that was the plan. They all knew that was the plan
They
when
have
they,
also different materials put on that road to the thing too, and if they weren't made aware of that, then,
They weren't.
So when
you know what
I,
I'm saying?
when R
I
and
know
D
when you
just
guys
drove
went
that,
and Rode around, it wasn't too long ago. 'cause-
right, it was only 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I stopped and I talked to the guy about the condition of the road, what his recommendations were, does he think the road is in decent shape? And he told me in no uncertain terms that he thinks that road is in much better condition for immediate paving than South Road. And he said that he thinks that the best thing that happened to that road is that it sat through a winter and got packed down. And that the material on it looks like good material to pave over. That's what he said. So I asked those questions. He also talked about putting a 2-inch base and then 1.5 inch top coat over the top of that. And he did say, there's the issues of the culverts. So we've got culverts in there that need to be changed, which we're gonna do before we pave it, but the conversation we were having is if you don't change the culverts before you pave the road's gonna fail. So that's, I did,
The other tale, since you brought up the culverts, I don't wanna see it ending up like Taylor Road.
right,
well, we've had conversation with Bob about that as well. And the Potato Road ones were not done by Bob and your crew, so.
Right.
They were done by
Yeah.
the previous Bob, so.
yeah,
So.
Yeah.
Bob won. Bob
What
won.
is it?
yeah.
The Bob thing.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it is actually.
Yeah, so, but Hugh, I will tell you, this is the way I see the culverts. Is we have people on your crew that are certified and more than capable of putting culverts in that aren't gonna sink. And if those people are allowed to do their job, instead of the supervisor thinking that he knows how to do the job better, then maybe the culverts are going correctly. So I guess what I'm getting at is I feel confident right now that the supervisor that you guys have over there will let the guys that are certified to put the culverts in. For the most part, I mean, he has to manage the job. I'm not saying don't manage it. My guys know how to paint a building too, but I make sure they're putting it on right. Right? So, but I have to think the supervisor that was there before, his ego wouldn't allow him to let somebody do it properly if he wanted it done a different way. And I say that looking at what the mess I've seen over the last 2 years. So, look, if you see something, come and tell us. But by all, we're hiring people that we think are qualified for the job, but that doesn't mean we don't need people coming and talking to us as well. Right? So I understand what you're saying. But I think we're gonna be in all right shape. You're gonna be installing the culverts.
Do you have anything else?
The only trash truck is stuff on the road.
You,
No.
you'll say, Mark?
Thank you.
You guys are gonna let me know about the. Old Home Day.
Yeah, so I talked to Gloria. She said, she confirmed that we have funded the $1,000 seed money for Old Home Days. She and I had, that's as far as I got because of the transition she's in. She thought that Ned had used that money for something else and she was gonna check on it to get back to me, so I gotta find out. So, I mean, it's at that would. Go ahead.
It shows here that $764 was used for something.
Okay, so
Out of the
so
1,000.
we just have to figure out where we're gonna grab it from and to do it. So, all right, so
If somebody can let me know and I can get it to the treasurer of those.
okay. Who is that, Mark? Who's the treasurer?
Very clause.
Okay.
Okay,
Do we know what this line below patriotic, what that is used for? The 500?
It's usually.
Okay.
Which that bill may be out there is actually, so. And what do they use the seed money for, Mark? They had somebody ask me that after last meeting, so,
Well, they use it for kids' games and all kinds of different things.
okay.
It just adds to the pot of, all the different events that go on.
it goes into the part of the overall fund, right?
Right, that is used for our kid games and,
Yeah.
putting up signs in the downtown and
Sure.
all of that stuff.
Right, but that's same people are asking too. It's, you guys aren't getting that money so you guys can collect a paycheck to be on the old homestay committee for crying out loud.
Nobody from the old home day committee gets paid that.
I know. Yeah, it goes back into our community, so it's
And
funny, some of the
businesses
things we
in
get
this town-
asked, man.
The businesses in the town, reap the benefits of this still.
Yeah, I would like to see where we can pull it from. I mean, it's only $764. It's $1,000 total. I think it's really important that we support.
Yeah.
Support the cause and the weekend.
I do too.
So,
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thomas,
I know that obviously there's a transition going on and some gaps. But to avoid seeing you guys get hung up on this, since you've made the decision not to put minutes out at these meetings, I noticed the last meetings that were posted online are from middle of April.
okay,
And the law says 5 days, even if they're not approved. That they need to be available upon request within 5 days. So just
Sure.
sort of let you all know.
okay, appreciate it.
I have two things.
Nice.
So I had a tour of the fire station today with John, and a couple of things that he mentioned. So we send a bill for EMS and for fire services, both to Orange and to Dorchester. He doesn't believe that they have been billed. Orange did pay their EMS, but nothing else. He said that he's happy to get that bill ready because they know the number so that Jack doesn't have to do it and send it out. He just wanted confirmation from us that that was fine for him to do. I'm okay with him doing that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I told him I would send him an email and let him know.
Okay, thank you.
And who's gonna send that bill in?
John.
John has,
Oh, John, okay.
I can have him email a copy to you just so we
Yeah,
have it
yeah,
too. Okay,
If that was a question I had,
So we cover half of Dorchester.
right, because I spoke to somebody from Dorchester today and they got a bill and they don't know why. So that's, I'll have to reach out to John.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, 'cause John was under the impression that maybe it had gotten lost in the transition and it hadn't gone out.
Well,
So-
the problem that I don't understand yet is that the, the Dorchester bill had a date of, from January to September 2020.
Oh, that's not right.
For like $4,800 and Dorchester has no idea either about the amount or the purpose since they don't have a contract or they're not aware of a contract. So nobody,
Okay, so maybe you need to connect with John prior
Yeah.
to this
Yeah.
happening. So I'll just email him and let him know that you'll, because he must have that information.
yeah, I'm sure.
With him because they were looking at past due stuff. And they were working with one of the last treasurers out there.
Yeah, because Dorchester's gone through some changes too, so there's some missing history there as well.
Okay, so I'll just let him know that you'll
Yeah.
connect. with
Yeah,
him.
yeah, yep,
Okay.
that'll be good.
Any other business?
Didn't you say you had two things? Was that both of them?
Yeah.
Dorchester? Can't combine them both.
Well,
Have
timing is everything, and that helps me too, because I was on the phone with her today.
Okay.
a motion to go into non-public,
I make a motion to go into non-public.
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody online. Thanks, Sal.
No question. Yeah, right.
You too.